Welcome. My name is Melinda Hart. You are watching Stamping with Hart. I am an independent demonstrator with Stampin Up. And like I said, today's card is this Camouflage Floating Gatefold card. I am using the Grassy Grove bundle to make this card tonight. And there's a lot more dies than this, but the big guy, this is the one that kind of knocks everybody's socks off. So I wanted to feature this piece here. But if you have outdoorsmen in your life, or outdoors ladies, just depending. I know the camo isn't just for the people who are outdoors anymore. I know that it's like fashionable too sometimes. So just depending on if somebody likes the camo style, or if they wear a lot of camo, or if they actually are outside in their gear and doing their thing, then this is definitely a card that might interest you. You can find more information about the projects that I make here on Facebook and the replays on YouTube. You can find the information on my blog at www.stampingwithhart.blogspot.com. I'm not going to talk too much about the last chance list, but from June 1st to the 30th, Stampin' Up! Has done the retiring items list for our mini catalog, the January to June mini catalog. You can get up to 50% off of retiring items. Last chance list, those are the items that aren't coming back or they're not carrying over. So that means that they're while supplies last. There are some great deals over there. If you guys are interested in me doing a walkthrough, I can do that. I did send a list out to my email subscribers, but if you need any information about the last chance list, you can let me know. But you can also go, and when you click to shop, it will show you the last chance list items that are still available. So if you have any questions about that, let me know. Grassy Grove, if you're interested in getting the bundle, this is the last month that you can purchase it as a bundle with a discount. These items are carrying over, but they will no longer have the bundle option. So just keep that in mind. If this is something that you've been looking forward to getting, I think June is definitely the month to do it. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's go through all of our pieces and our measurements and all of our fun stuff. So we're going to do this in two parts. I tried to do as much prep as I could because we're going to be creating this camo look. But we're also going to be putting together this fun fold, and that might take a little bit of time. So, and hopefully I won't, hopefully cross fingers, I won't make any mistakes. So here we have our card, and I was actually thinking about redoing this card base on the live with you because I tried something new, with putting together a gatefold. I typically score both sides of my cardstock, and when I do that, sometimes there is a very slight gap in the card. Now, the good thing about scoring both sides is that you have that nice clean score, which means you're not going to like oddly bend your paper or anything like that. And this is 8.5 by 5.5. You're going to score it at 2 1/8 on one side. But I actually saw, and I'll give a shout out to Lisa Curcio. I was watching her version of I watched several different versions of this. I originally found a UK demonstrator, but she didn't have US measurements. So I started Googling around and I found somebody else. And Lisa Curcio was mentioning how she will only do one side scored of her gatefold, and then she hand folds and scores the other side herself, which, I was like, I don't know about that because I don't really trust myself. But it did turn out really, it turned out really perfect. Okay, so I think I am going to show you guys, if you don't mind. So let me go ahead. And if you do that, let me know in the comments. I have always scored my gatefolds on both sides, but this was a really interesting concept to me. But yeah, so technically it would basically be like 2 1/8 on each side, but she's right. I didn't quite nail it. I didn't quite get it perfect. So if you want it to be absolutely perfect, and we'll see, I don't know if I'll do it on the live or not, but my hair is, I don't know if you guys can hear that. My hair is rubbing against my light. I have to back it up a little bit. I have my hair in a ponytail. Hold on. I'm like, it's literally bumping me. Okay, so this is our pumpkin pie cardstock. You can use whichever one, whichever one you want. Now, I had to cut some other pieces in pumpkin pie, so it's up to you how you want to cut your card base here. I'm going to cut it 5.5 all the way down. And I don't know if you saw my Facebook post, but I found my paper trimmer blade replacements. Oh my goodness. I so desperately needed those. I was so sure that I ordered them, but you just never know, you know? Okay, so 5.5 by 8.5. I'm going to do that first score of 2 1/8. Okay, and I'm going to show you how she did it. And I mean, it really made me nervous, but it did turn out great. So let me show you. You guys can tell I'm on a little bit of a fun fold adventure. Okay, so this one's done on this side. So with this side, you just start bringing it over. So you guys can do this however you prefer, but I'm trying to put the pressure on the very edge of the card. And my goal before I put any pressure on the bent part is to get these edges lined up. So this was the part that was really freaking me out. Here, so let me just kind of show you. You can see I'm kind of bending this card a little too much. And this is what happened the first time. But what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to get them to meet. I'm just trying to get these edges to line up. Let me see if I can recreate this or not. So I'm going to start pressing this down, and I'm trying not to get this out of alignment. But I'm just pressing this edge down here. And now I'm going to get my bone folder, and I'm going to try to clean this up. So I don't want to press too hard, but I just want to try to get that line looking good and even. And again, I am just practicing this for the first time, so I'm definitely no pro at it, but you can see, I mean, it turns out pretty good. So it's up to you if you guys want to do that. I think I came in a little too close here at the top, but look at how close that is. Look at how tight that is. So in terms of a gatefold, if you're feeling, you know, experimental, that's definitely worth a try. So those are the first pieces for this card. So not too bad, right? And of course, this is going to fit into your regular, your medium-sized envelopes. Okay, so now we're going to need our basic white panels that we're going to turn into camo. And so the measurement that I want for each of those panels, let me just get my paper trimmer one more time. It's 2 1/8 for the card base. So I'm going to do 2 inches. Let me do that one more time because I don't think I cut properly at the bottom. Okay. And then 5.5. So I'm going to go to 5 1/4, 5 3/8. So we're going to do 5 3/8. And I will make sure that I have a project sheet of measurements for you on the blog. I'll try to get that up there tomorrow. Time has been crazy. All right. We're going to do 1 more of those. Okay, so we want 2 of those. We're pretty much going to want 2 of everything except our card base on the inside, like the inside layer piece. So let's just take a look at these. Okay, so this is looking good. All right, so that's going to be our 2 outside pieces. Now, you're going to want your 4 by 5 1/4 piece for the inside. Let me get this out of the way so I don't confuse myself. Hang on. Okay, so we have that piece. All right, so I'm just going to try to build it as I'm talking to you guys about it. And then if I missed anything, we'll figure it out. So we have our 2 outside panels. We have our main inside panel. Now, if you want your card base to be white, you won't need this piece. But I chose pumpkin pie, so I'm doing a basic white piece on the inside. So totally up to you. Okay, so that's the next piece. Now, we're also going to need strips or hinges, just depending on how you want to describe it. And I tore my cardstock a little bit, so I'm just going to trim that little edge off there. Not that anybody's going to see it, but still. Okay, so I already pre-scored these, but let me give you the measurements. You're going to need 2 of these because you're going to have a hinge coming in from this side and a hinge coming in from this side. So these strips are going to become these pieces right here. Okay, so the hinges are, don't you love my official notes? The hinges are 1 inch by 5 1/4. And then you're going to score it at 1 inch, or here, let me put it this way, 1 inch, 2 inches, and 4 1/4 inches. And just so that you guys can kind of see those notches, because I know it's so hard to see with the white. 1 inch, 2 inches, and then 4 1/4 inches. You're going to need 2 of those. Okay. The lone side is going to be the piece that glues down on the, let's call it the door, the gate door right there. Okay. And then the two score piece is going to be on the inside of the card, which we'll get to later. But so you're going to need that. That's going to be like your mechanism for the card. And then we're also going to need to create these panels. So you're going to need 2 of each of these pieces too. So we have, and let me just make sure I have this right, because there's 2 layers of basic white here. And if you don't want to confuse yourself, you could do another color. But I did 2 layers in basic white. So I'll put these over here. Okay, so your smallest pieces, the ones that we're going to stamp, are 2 by 2. And then you're going to layer it onto pumpkin pie. And that is 2 1/8. And then this, it'll get layered onto here, but we're gonna stamp the border of the biggest one. It will layer onto this piece here, which is 2 1/4. So 1/8 of an inch basically with the layering here. And then this will become the panel at the top and the bottom, and we'll do our stamping. We have a bunch of stamping actually to do for this card, and I think it really pays off in terms of like its look. And you could do your camo in any color combo that you want. So the last, well, here were my additions to the floating gatefold, because I saw it so that like these 2 panels were just really well decorated and you didn't have any middle piece, and there was no, typically a gatefold will have a belly band. And of course you could do that, but the samples that I saw didn't include that. So I wanted a front panel here. I just wanted it. I just felt like it looked right. So this is when I started adding things. So here are the extra pieces, okay? We are going to end up doing another pumpkin pie layer. This is with the stitched rectangle dies. And let me get you the measurement on this. This is for our outside panel piece. So this is 2 5/8 by 4 inches. Okay. And then we're also going to have a basic white panel that's going to layer in here. And that one is going to be 2 1/4 by, it looks like, I would say 3 1/2 or 3 9/16, just depending on how specific you want to get on that. Okay, and then that's going to be our inside layer. And then we're also going to use the Grassy Grove bundle, the big die. Okay, so this die is gigantic. And if you wanted to do your card this way, or if you wanted to do a different version of your card, this is going to fit in the landscape version. But when you try to do it in the portrait style, it comes off of the edges. And I just didn't think it was necessary to have the whole piece there. So I decided to cut it in half. So this is this half here. Wait, let me see if I can do this right. I think this half, it's hard to tell because it cuts into a piece of paper and I trimmed it down. But I think it's, well, it's something. Maybe it's this side. It looks so much bigger than it actually is because I have these edges on it. But anyway, you'll see what I do with it. So I cut off a piece and I stamped the deer onto the basic white layer. And then this is what's left over. So yes, okay. So this is a better look at this. So you see that like when you cut the die, it cuts into a piece of cardstock. It doesn't cut it out. So I just trimmed these edges, but left a border there. And we're going to do that on the front of this card. So I don't think it matters. You know, you can use you know, each side on a different card. So you can make multiples of these. And you could stamp your deer, or the Grassy Grove bundle also has the silhouette die cut deer. So if you want to use these guys, I cut them out so that we could do a version with the silhouettes. So just whichever one you want to do. We're going to create our camo with this stamp. And this stamp is actually not from Grassy Grove. This one is from, I'm actually using 2 stamps from Wildlife Wonder. This is also a mini catalog stamp set. I can't remember if it was carrying over or retiring. If you guys know, leave it in the comments. I love this set. So it's this stamp here. And then I also used To a Great Guy from this one. Everything else, I believe, is from this. These trees, this mound, this deer. I just didn't use the sentiments, but of course you could. So whatever, you know, whatever works. Now for our colors, let me get you the colors that we're doing for our camo. And let me just sort it into browns and greens. Okay, so what I chose to do, because I'm doing kind of a lot of space here, was I tried to alternate the colors a little bit. So for the browns, we're going to be using Sahara Sand and Soft Suede. For the greens, we're going to be using Garden Green, Old Olive, and Evening Evergreen. This is the primary stamp that's going to create the camo. And then with any little white spots that we have left over, I'm just going to fill them in with our little sponge dauber. Okay, so I'm going to have that on hand too. So what we can do is I'll start with Old Olive. And I will set my card kind of up here just so that we can see it off to the side while I'm there goes my sponge dauber. Okay, so we're going to put all of our, I am going to stamp this piece too, so I'm going to keep this nearby. So these are the pieces that we're going to stamp with camo. We're also going to need our largest square. And I could even do those now. So we'll stamp all of this at the same time. And then we'll do our little scene stamps last on the little 2x2 squares. But let me get these. I'm going to set that out of the way. And I'm going to put these 2 deer up on my little post-it note here so that I do not lose those. Okay, so these are all the pieces that we're going to stamp now. So the way that I chose to do the camo, and it's totally up to you how you wanted to do it. You could leave the panel whole before you cut it down the middle. I kind of liked alternating. Like I kind of liked that it was cut. But I did try to do it like down both sides as much as I could before I started singling out each edge. So I'm just going to kind of start going down, and I just rotate the colors basically. So here, I'm just going to start going right. It doesn't matter if you make any mistakes here. I'm pressing a little bit hard, so you could just lighten up how you're pressing. And then if I would move my panels, I'll just move them back. And you could just hold your finger down there. Any mistakes that you make, you can cover it. So don't worry about this being perfectly stamped, okay? So we'll come back to well, you know what? Yeah, we'll come back to Old Olive. Let's do the camo first, and then we'll go into stamping the other things. So I'm going to do Evening Evergreen next. Just have your quick cleaner, your stamp cleaner near you. My Simply Chamois is what I'm using. It's in between your colors. It's so easy to confuse them when you're using a bunch, so I do try to set them aside. Okay. And so I'm going to do Evening Evergreen, and then I'm just going to kind of start going in from each side. And we're just literally going to keep building this color out. Okay, so here you can still do your stamping right at the edges. Like I can stamp a little bit of Old Olive here. Okay, and then of course I'm using the small edge, but you can cover that piece. I'm gonna go in with my sponge dauber now, and I just wanna make sure that no basic white is showing. So the other thing that we're going to do a camo pattern on, but not as intense, is on the inside layer. And this is optional. So if you just want to do your camo on the outside, but I just did some camo at the top and at the bottom of the inside layer piece. So we're going to do that one more time. So I'm just going to go all the way around my edges. And I guess I'm being shy because I'm not really getting my edges. So let's try that one more time. And it's okay because your pumpkin pie is going to go over top. So you're only going to see like 1/8 or no, 1/8 of this border. I'm going to set that aside for a minute. Okay. All right, and then let me just get my other panel. Doesn't that look cool? So we're gonna do To a Great Guy on this panel here, which means we're gonna use these taller trees here, and then right on the edge there. And then To a Great Guy is that stamp from Wildlife Wonder. I can't stop using them together. And then here's our deer, and then we have this sort of greenery stamp, and there's two different ones. There's this smaller mound here, and then there's also like the big one, the big mound, and that's this one. So we're going to use the smaller mound with our deer stamp, okay? And all of these stamps, with the exception of the Great Guy, are from Grassy Grove, okay? So I'm going to get my Sahara sand for our deer. I'm going to leave my Old Olive open just in case I need it. I'm going to be using Garden Green on the greenery here, but we used Old Olive to edge that outer square. Okay, and so let's do our deer and Sahara sand. That looks good. Just kind of did the deer center. And then we're going to do Garden Green with our mound. He's not exactly center, is he? That's okay. All right, so I'm going to just ink this up. And I wanted him to be like kind of like in the grass. So when I first stamped this, I kind of stamped it high. And when I did that, you can still see like there's this white border. So I inked the stamp again and I turned it upside down. And I just lined it up with that bottom line there and just stamped it again. And I thought that looked really cool. Like I thought that looked really grassy. Okay, so that's the first one. And then for this one, we're going to do those trees. So we're going to do garden green again. And I really wanted to kind of get the, like the full 2-tree look on this piece on this side. So let's try that. Okay, that looks pretty good. And then I did 2 more lower. So I was trying to frame in my sentiment, which I did in soft suede. I was trying to frame that in. So let's do To a Great Guy. And kind of did that like in the upper corner. And then 2 more trees lower. And I wanted 1 like edged tree here. So just kind of brought it in a little bit. And what I ended up doing with this one was bringing in that sponge dauber again to give that look. And I did the old olive with the sponge dauber, just really, really light. So let's just bring that back and do that one more time. Totally optional. And I'm going to dab off. And just where the trees, you know, where it would be like there would be foresty and green is where I just kind of filled that in. And then I'm just going to go down and around. Just kind of create like a little bit of a, not like misty, but just really soft green edging there. And I did not do that at the top, so just along the tree line. Okay, and so now we can start assembling our pieces and our card. So I don't know if I'm going to need my inks again or not. I might, yes, I will, but we're going to just set these aside for a minute. I do need them for the outside piece, but let's do the inside pieces as much as we can, and then we'll finish the front piece. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to put this panel down. I will switch to my glue, but I typically use Seal for all of this. I would recommend Seal for the hinges. Seal plus a stronger adhesive or your tear and tape adhesive if you have it. This is a new bottle, so there's a lot of glue coming out. Okay, more than what I would typically use. All right, so I'm going to put that piece down first. Just the great thing about the glue is having the time to recenter if you didn't get it perfect. Okay, and so I wonder if I have any Seal left. I'm like at the very edge, so let's see if I have enough to do my hinges. So let me bring in my hinges now. We don't have to do anything with these other than to, you know, position and glue them down. So the way that this was explained to me, again, we're going to do that single score tab on the outside on our little door of our card here on each side. So our single and our single. But what you want to do, and I'm going to grab my biggest piece here to measure this out. You want to make sure that when you put your piece on, it lines up with the score line on the edge here, but that it doesn't go over the edge of your card or, you know, over the bottom of your card. And you also want to keep in mind that with the mechanism opening and closing, that they don't crash into each other or that they don't overlap, so that you could very clearly see them separated. So you can take the time to position it here. And the way that I saw this done was like marking it, which I thought was really smart. So if you kind of get that position where you're like, okay, I know that's not going to go over, like that looks like a good layout. And this looks like a good layout. This would have to be up a little bit further, but let's just say we're liking the way that this looks, okay? So if we're happy with this, I would kind of like this square to line up with the top. So I'm just going to kind of move it up a little bit, like almost blending. So I'm just gonna do a little mark right here and a little mark right there. And then we're gonna do the same thing down here where we just kind of line that up. And then we check to make sure it's not gonna go over. I'm gonna try to line that up again on the bottom. And you don't have to do that, but I'm just kind of eyeballing it. And just try to keep it straight. And then mark it and mark it. And you won't see the marks because your square is going to cover it. Okay. So then your adhesive will go on this side and then you'll set it down, and you want to set it down right outside of your score line. Okay. So let me do that. If I have enough. I really want some of that stronger adhesive if I could help it. Okay, just because you don't know how many times somebody's going to open and close a card. Connor, I think, is going to be very curious about this. So I'm just going to set that down. And let me check out this mechanism, right? So far, so good. So this is the piece that's going to come down on this side. And the first time I did this, I didn't quite get my scoring perfect, and you can fix it. It's a very easy fix. My recommendation would be do not adhere your panel until you get these pieces right. Test this out first and make sure that it's working. Okay, so, oops, I lost a hinge. I'm just gonna get a little more adhesive down there. Hang on, I've got to get a little bit closer. There we go. Okay. So now we're going to lay this flat, and we're going to fold this over, and then I'm just going to try to get that as straight as I can and press that down. So you can see it's like bubbling a little bit. So when I close it, I'm just going to fix that. I'm just going to rescore it just a wee bit. Okay. And it should be all good, right? So that's why we test it before, you know, especially if you're new to it. If you're a master with your fun folds, then you're probably not going to need to worry about it. But because I'm new to it, I didn't quite have it right. Okay, so now we're just going to do that same exact step on the bottom. And I want to make sure I have my single side for this edge. And then let me get my... It's very helpful to have that area marked. It's so much easier. Okay, so just want to make sure no glue is showing. I mean, it's going to be covered, but it would bug me. Okay, so again, right outside that score line. Okay, and then same thing. We're going to try to get that as straight as we can, and we're going to put this one down. Okay, so put this one down. And you can see I did it again. I don't know why. I just didn't quite have that right. I might have to double check my measurement on that, but I thought I did it right. So I'm just going to kind of squeak that out a little bit. Just going to rescore that. Just make sure the mechanics are working. It's opening, it's closing. All right, so we can do our panels now. Okay, so let's do our panels, and we're going to start putting this together. I love pumpkin pie. Oh gosh. I don't use this cardstock that much, but I really do love it. I feel like I use it more for holidays in the fall. But honestly, orange is such a great summer card. It's like a great summer color. Okay, so now let's do our deer. And hopefully I'm not getting green everywhere with my fingers. That would just be great. All right, so let's put this piece down. And honestly, if you would want to put your sentiment right here with the deer, you have room. Or if you would want to mask the deer, you know, put a little mask over your deer and stamp some, you know, wooded area behind him, or a blue sky or something like that. That would be gorgeous. Okay, so here we would want to kind of put that on right like that. So I'm looking for the lineup, like right about there. And I'm looking for the lineup here. It's going to be just fine. So here I'm going to do the stronger adhesive. if I can get away with it. I'm going to try to set this so that it's like right on the 2 score lines, and I'm going to try to set it so that it's lining right up here. So here we go. And it's folding, it's working, nothing's, you know, overlapping. We have some space. You could write something in there if you would want to. For the front panel, totally optional as to how you guys want to color your tree and your branches. All right, I chose to stamp on it, and I did the Stampin' Blends for the tree trunk. I just like the stamped look. I just think it, like I said, I just think it's more rugged. But if you want to do a smoother green coloring with your Stampin' Blends, go for it. Okay, so here I'm going to get my 2 outside layers, but we're going to work this piece first. Okay, so I just eyeballed it, and you could see, like, this is pretty much, it's going to fit nicely inside this rectangle. I just need to trim down these edges. I just need to trim off this piece, basically. So that's what we're going to do. We're just going to kind of trim it down. We're just going to eyeball it because we're manipulating a larger die cut piece. Okay, so just basically just want to see the details of that tree there. So I'm going to go to the details of the tree. I think that the original piece of paper was like 4 by 5 1/4 because I have a lot of those pieces pre-cut, and that's why I had some leftover basic white there. But you can, you know, size it to the die too if you want to. And then I'm going to do the same thing down here. I'm just going to trim it a little bit. Okay, and now here, I'm just gonna, and you can extend it over as far as you want. I'm gonna stay pretty close, and I'm just gonna round it off. Okay, so just so that it doesn't look like a straight line. And it's the same thing with the trees. Just gonna sort of round them off so that it doesn't, and let me check the rectangle too, so we can kind of refer back here and see where we need to trim to. And you can see where this branch starts is where we would want this to stop. So I'm gonna just trim that up right there and just kind of zigzag it all the way up. And I'm just going to round this off right here because I think that hook looks weird. There we go. Okay. And then we have our tree piece, and then we'll do our die cut deer this time with our scene. So that's how I did that. If you don't want to use the full, you know, because that's a very large die. So if you don't want to use the full thing, that's okay. This is the Soft Suede Light Stampin' Blend. And I'm just going to kind of quickly color in the branch areas here. So let's see. I'm going to get these and these. We're going to kind of go up into the tree line. It's okay because we're going to cover some of it. You don't have to be precise when we start stamping our green onto these, but anything that was like a big branchy area, I definitely tried to color with the blends. And I know that this again is grass, but it's okay. So let me just get up here. This is pretty much going to turn green, but I'm doing it anyway. Just in case you do decide to do the coloring, you know how to do it. All right. And so here we go with our garden green. And I am going to grab this Trio of Trees stamp. And what I'm going to do, and I've done this in a previous video, so I'm basically repeating my technique here because I love the way that it looked. I'm just going into the tree line and stamping because I loved the way that it looked. It almost looks like, dare I say, broccoli. It just kind of has like a really cool tree leafy texture, and I didn't want to lose that. So I'm just kind of layering stamping getting that look going with the trees. Okay, and then you have this whole area here, so you can decide if you want to keep going down with this one, or we're going to do like the grassy knoll stamp. You could do the big or the small one. The reason why I went for the big one is because it's kind of thicker here and it's a little more sparse on this one. So I really wanted to try to cover up the basic white quickly, which is why I went for this one. So I'm going to do this one on the bottom here. I'm going to stamp it again. And then I'm also going to kind of stamp over on this side with it as well. Okay. And you can see there's some green getting on the tree trunks, but I think it looks natural. Like, I don't think it looks crazy, but totally up to you. And then you kind of get this look. So, of course, you know what I'm going to do. I'm going to get my little sponge dauber. I'm going to go back to my old olive, and I'm just going to do my little bit of filler so that we don't have any white showing around that greenery. We want it to be really lush and summery. Lush and summery and fabulous. Okay. And then I'm going to completely close this and set the panel down and press that down just like that. Okay. I'm just going to give that a second. Okay. All right. So there we go. Oh my gosh. So we have our two camouflage. These are called Floating Gatefold cards. So Floating Gatefold with our sort of camo technique stamping here. This has the stamped deer on the front. This has our two, and this is early espresso cardstock for these deer, by the way. But let me know if you guys want to see more cards like this, if you want to see more of these fancier fun folds, or if you like the simple cards. It doesn't matter to me either way, you know, simpler, that's what I do like typically, but it's fun to kind of step outside the box and do these like fancier folds. All right, thank you so much, and I will see you on Sunday night at 7:30 p.m. Bye-bye.